My daughter Sarah sent me a text saying she needed space from me forever. I cut off her credit cards within 2 hours. By evening, she called 52 times begging me to reconsider. If you're watching this, please hit subscribe and tell me what country you're from. Let me explain how we reached this breaking point, because sometimes the truth hurts more than lies. And honey, this truth was about to sting real bad. For weeks ago, I thought I was being a helpful grandmother. Actually, I was being a fool with deep pockets. At 71, I'd been playing fairy godmother to my adult kids for way too long. I forgot what saying no felt like. My husband Frank passed away 6 years back, leaving us more money than we could spend. Enough that Sarah and her husband Tom could buy their fancy townhouse, pay for little Lucy's dance classes, and fund Tom's failed restaurant dreams. I lived peacefully in my cozy cottage, the same place Frank and I had called home for 35 years. Every weekend, I'd visit their place for family brunch. Every Christmas, I'd hand over another check. Every time Lucy needed something, I'd reach for my wallet without thinking twice. I thought I was being loving. Turns out I was being used. The red flags had been waving for ages. Sarah only texted when she wanted something. Tom would disappear whenever I arrived, claiming he had important business calls. My granddaughter Lucy, sweet as pie at 8 years old, would hug me hello then run off to play with expensive toys I'd bought her. But I ignored every warning sign because I believed family came first. I believed love meant giving everything. I believed if I just helped enough, they'd truly care about me. What a silly old woman I was. The morning before my birthday, I'd gone to the farmer's market to buy fresh strawberries for Lucy's favorite tart, the same recipe I'd made for her every year since she could walk. I spent 3 hours baking, my old hands shaking as I rolled the dough, but determined to make something special that would show my little granddaughter how much her Nana loved her. I texted Sarah that afternoon, a simple message. Lucy's strawberry tart is cooling whenever you want to swing by. Nothing back. I waited and waited. Every time I heard footsteps outside, I'd rush to the window, hoping to see Lucy's bright yellow raincoat. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart would jump, thinking it was Sarah calling to say they were running late. But the clock kept ticking. Morning turned to afternoon. Afternoon turned to night, and night turned into another lonely evening. That strawberry tart sat on my counter for 5 whole days, getting moldy like my hopes. On the 6th day, I threw it in the trash, crying as I watched Lucy's favorite treat disappear down the garbage disposal. That's when it hit me like a truck. My own daughter had forgotten my birthday. Not forgotten and remembered later, completely ignored it. I'd spent years putting their needs before mine. When Sarah got divorced from her first husband, I'd paid her lawyer bills. When she married Tom, I'd bought them matching wedding rings they couldn't afford. When they wanted that townhouse but had no down payment, I'd written a check for $150,000 without thinking twice. And this was my reward. Complete silence on the one day that should have meant something. I was feeding my cat Whiskers when my phone finally made a sound. Sarah's name popped up on the screen. For just a moment, my foolish heart felt happy. Hey Mom, happy birthday yesterday. Forgot to call you. You know how busy life gets with Lucy and everything. She forgot to call me like I was some old neighbor instead of the woman who'd given her life. I stared at those words for what felt like forever, feeling something cold and angry growing in my chest where love used to live. She forgot like I was just another item on her to-do list instead of the person who'd held her when she was sick, who'd saved every dollar for her education, who'd worked extra shifts to buy her first car. My fingers shook over the phone keyboard. The old me would have typed back something sweet. Oh, don't worry, sweetie. I know you're busy with Lucy. The old me would have made excuses, probably invited them over for dinner to celebrate late. But that version of me had died somewhere between throwing away Lucy's tart and reading Sarah's careless message. Instead, I called my banker. Margaret, I need your help with something important. I've been thinking about the monthly transfers I set up for Sarah's family. Margaret had handled our family accounts since Frank died. She knew about the automatic payments that covered their mortgage, car loans, and credit cards. Of course, Mrs. Patterson. What changes would you like to make? Cancel everything effective immediately. Every single automatic payment stops today. There was quiet on the phone. Margaret knew how generous I'd been. May I ask what happened? Let's just say I've learned the difference between being appreciated and being taken advantage of. Margaret moved quickly. By Tuesday morning, every automatic payment had been stopped. The money that paid for their fancy lifestyle simply disappeared. I didn't warn them. Why should I? They never asked how I felt when they took my money. Never wondered if I had enough left for myself. Never said thank you for funding their American dream. Instead, I sat back and waited. And honestly, the waiting felt almost fun. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about everyone else's problems. It took exactly 1 week. I was knitting a scarf for myself, something I hadn't done in ages because I was always busy helping others, when my phone started ringing like crazy. Sarah's name kept flashing on my screen. I let it ring. She called back right away, then again and again. By the 8th call, I was actually smiling. Where was all this energy when it came to remembering my birthday? The 9th call came with a text message. Mom, please answer your phone. Something's wrong with our bank account.
Wrong?
That's what she called it when the free money stopped flowing. I poured myself some tea and got comfortable in my favorite chair. Let her worry for once. Heaven knows I'd worried enough over the years about whether I was doing enough for children who couldn't remember when I was born. The calls kept coming, 12, 15, 18, each one sounding more upset than the last. By bedtime, Sarah had called 29 times. Tom had called 8. They'd left me 16 voicemails, each one more panicked than the one before. The first few sounded confused. Mom, I think there's been some kind of bank error. Can you call me back, please? By message 9, confusion had become worry. Mom, please call us back. The mortgage company called, and we need to sort this out. By message 14, worry had turned into fear. Mom, this is Tom. We really need to talk right now. This isn't a game anymore. The final message, left at 12:23 in the morning, was pure panic. Sarah's voice cracked with tears. Mom, I know you're mad about the birthday thing. I'm really sorry, okay? But this isn't fair anymore. Please call me back. We need that money. We need that money. Not we miss you or we love you or we're worried about you. Just we need that money.
Perfect.
After all these years, she'd finally been honest about what I meant to this family. I turned off my phone and slept like a baby for the first time in months. The next day brought something new. The sound of someone banging on my front door at 8 in the morning. I took my sweet time getting ready, choosing my prettiest dress and my pearl necklace. If Sarah and Tom wanted to have this fight, I was going to look good while we had it. Through my peephole, I could see them, both standing on my porch looking messy and stressed. Sarah was crying, mascara running down her cheeks. Tom stood behind her, checking his phone every few seconds like he was expecting bad news. I opened the door with my biggest smile. Good morning, dears. What brings you by so early? Sarah pushed past me into my living room, Tom following close behind, looking like thunder. Mom, what on earth is happening? Sarah demanded. The bank says all the money transfers have stopped. Our mortgage bounced, our car payments bounced, and my credit cards aren't working. I closed the door and turned to look at them. They both appeared frantic, desperate, like kids who just learned the world didn't revolve around them. Would you like some coffee? I asked sweetly.
We don't want coffee, Tom snapped.
We want to know why you've cut off our money without any warning. Our money. How funny that Tom thought the money I'd earned and saved and managed was somehow theirs by right. I walked to my kitchen and started making coffee anyway, moving slowly just to watch them squirm. I've been thinking lately about family relationships, about money, about basic kindness, little things like remembering birthdays. Sarah looked uncomfortable. Mom, if this is about your birthday, oh, it's about much more than that, I interrupted, turning to face them both. Your birthday was just the last straw. Do you know how long it's been since either of you asked how I'm doing? How I'm feeling, whether I need anything at all? They looked at me with blank faces. I'll tell you exactly, I continued. 18 months. 18 whole months since either of you treated me like a person instead of a walking ATM machine. Tom stepped forward, his face red with anger. That's not true. We invite you for family brunches. You invite me to brunches where you ignore me while talking about home improvements I'm paying for, vacations I'm funding, and dance classes I'm covering. I'm not a guest at those brunches, Tom. I'm the bank. The old lady you put up with because she signs the checks. The silence stretched between us like a deep canyon. Sarah sat down hard on my couch, finally, understanding I wasn't joking around. Mom, she said quietly, I know we haven't been the best at staying in touch, but cutting us off completely, that seems really mean. Mean coming from someone who'd forgotten her mother's birthday and then blamed her busy schedule. Is it mean, Sarah? Let me show you something interesting. I walked to my desk and grabbed a folder I'd put together. In the 6 years since your father died, I've given your family $673,000 in direct support. That's not counting gifts, holidays, or special treats. Just monthly bills I've been paying. Almost $700,000. Tom went white as a sheet. I don't think he'd ever added it all up before. In return, I continued, you visited me exactly 28 times. That works out to about $24,000 per visit. I attended 11 family events where you made me feel unwelcome. That's roughly $61,000 per event where I felt like a bother. Sarah opened her mouth to argue, but I held up my hand. I'm not done yet. You've called me to ask about my health or happiness exactly 9 times in 6 years. 9 times, Sarah. But you've called asking for money 38 times. The numbers hung in the air like a judgment, because that's exactly what they were. The money arrangement we had was supposed to be based on family love and caring, I said calmly. When you stopped showing love and caring, I stopped providing money. It's simple math. Tom found his voice first. You can't just abandon your family because your feelings got hurt. I looked at this man who'd never worked a steady job since marrying my daughter, who'd spent my money on his restaurant dreams while barely speaking to me at family gatherings. I'm not abandoning anyone, Tom. I'm simply asking for the same respect I've always given you. Recognition, gratitude, basic human decency. If that's too much to ask, then maybe we need to think about what family really means. Sarah leaned forward, her voice taking on that whiny tone she'd used as a teenager when she wanted something. Mom, we can do better. We can call more, visit more, but we really need that money. The house, Lucy's school, everything depends on it. Everything you've built depends on my kindness, I corrected. And kindness needs thankfulness, not demands. I stood up, smoothing my dress. I'm going to make you both an offer. I walked to my window, looking out at my little garden where Frank had planted roses years ago. From here, the world looked peaceful and simple, much simpler than the mess my children were about to face. Here's what I'm willing to do, I said, turning back to them. You have 1 month to prove that I'm more than just a money source to this family. Not through desperate phone calls or panic visits, but through real interest in my life as a person. Sarah and Tom looked at each other, and I could see them already planning how to trick me into opening my wallet again. What exactly are you talking about? Tom asked carefully. It means treating me like family instead of like a cash machine. It means remembering important days without being reminded. It means asking about my day, my health, my hobbies, my feelings. It means including me in talks instead of talking around me. It means showing basic respect for the woman who's been paying your bills. I sat back down, enjoying how they hung on every word for once. If after 1 month I feel valued as a person rather than just a provider, we can talk about starting some financial help again. Not the unlimited credit card you've been enjoying, but something more reasonable. Sarah's face lit up with hope. We can absolutely do that, Mom. No problem at all. But I continued, holding up one finger, if I sense even the tiniest bit of fakeness, if this feels like an act designed to get my money flowing again, the offer disappears forever, and I mean forever. Tom's fake smile was slipping. What are we supposed to do in the meantime?
We have
payments due, car loans, Lucy's tuition. The same thing millions of families do, I said cheerfully. You'll manage somehow. Tom makes decent money when he works. You could get a job, Sarah. You could sell the big house, find a cheaper school, get rid of 1 car. All the things people do when they live within their actual income. The word job seemed to terrify Sarah. She'd married Tom right after college and had never held a real job. The thought of actual work was clearly scary. "You're being so cruel," she whispered. "Am I? Or am I finally being honest about what this relationship has become?" I stood up again, showing them our meeting was over. "1 month," I repeated, "starting right now. And remember, I've had 6 years to learn the difference between real emotion and fake performances. Don't insult me by trying to pretend your way through this." They left without saying goodbye, Tom practically shaking with anger, Sarah looking shocked and lost. After they drove away, I made myself that cup of tea I'd been wanting and sat back in my chair. The next 30 days were going to be very interesting. The phone calls started the very next morning. Not angry demands this time, but carefully planned performances that would have won acting awards. "Hi, Mom, just calling to see how you're feeling today." Sarah's voice sounded fake sweet through the phone. "I realized we never ask about your day enough." I was watering my plants and almost laughed out loud. In 6 years, this girl had never once called to ask how I felt unless she was working up to asking for money. "I'm doing fine, Sarah." "How thoughtful of you to ask." "Wonderful. And hey, I was thinking maybe we could go shopping this weekend. Just us girls. Like we used to." Like we used to? When exactly had we ever gone shopping together just for fun? I couldn't remember a single time Sarah had wanted to spend time with me without needing something. "That sounds nice," I said, curious to see how far this act would go.
"Great."
"Oh, and Mom, I've been thinking about what you said yesterday about not appreciating you enough."
"You're totally right. We've been awful daughters and sons-in-law."
The script was so obvious it was almost insulting, but I played along. "I appreciate you saying that, sweetie." After she hung up, I checked my clock. 51 minutes later, Lucy called. My 8-year-old granddaughter had never called me by herself in her entire life. Our conversations were usually just her answering my questions during family visits. "Hi, Grandma Patty. I wanted to call and tell you about my day at school today." The words sounded like she was reading from a card. Poor little thing. Her parents had obviously told her exactly what to say. "That's wonderful, Lucy. Tell me everything about it." She started talking about her classes, her friends, her teachers. Everything was super fun and amazing, and she just couldn't wait to share it all with her favorite grandma. It broke my heart. Not because she was lying, but because this forced conversation showed how little we really knew each other. Her parents had used their own daughter as a weapon in their desperate game. When she finished her little speech, I said gently, "Lucy, sweetheart, you don't have to do this." "Do what, Grandma?" "Act interested in talking to me, because your mommy and daddy told you to call." Silence on the other end. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, more real. "Mommy said you were mad at us. That maybe you wouldn't want to be our grandma anymore if we didn't try harder. Those awful people. They'd scared their own child to try to manipulate me." "Lucy, listen carefully. I will always be your grandma, no matter what happens between me and your parents. That will never, ever change. Do you understand me?"
"Yes, Grandma." "Good."
"Now, do you really want to talk to me, or would you rather go play with your toys like a normal 8-year-old? She giggled, and for the first time, she sounded like herself. "Can I go play? I have new crayons."
"Of course you can go play."
"I love you, Lucy." "Love you too, Grandma." The fake kindness had officially started. Day 3 brought a delivery. A huge bouquet of pink tulips arrived at my door with a card that read, "Thinking of you always. Love, Sarah and Tom." I'd never gotten flowers from them before. Not for my birthday, not for Mother's Day, not even when Frank died. But now, when they needed my money, suddenly they were thoughtful enough to spend money on a fancy display. I put the flowers in my kitchen and waited for the phone call. It came within 2 hours. "Hi, Mom, did you get our little gift?" Sarah's voice was extra bubbly. "They're beautiful. Thank you so much. I just wanted you to know how much we love everything you've done for us over the years. I know I haven't always been the greatest daughter, but I want to fix that. The greatest daughter." This woman had barely talked to me in 3 years except to complain about my cooking or my clothes. "That's very sweet of you to say, Sarah." I was wondering if you'd like to come over for dinner tomorrow night. Maybe watch a movie together. Have a mother-daughter evening. A mother-daughter evening with a woman who once told Tom I was too clingy when I'd called to check on them during a snowstorm. I'll think about it, I said. Day 7 brought a homemade card from Lucy, decorated with glitter and stickers. Her usually messy handwriting was surprisingly neat, suggesting someone had made her practice. Dear Grandma Patty, it said, I have been thinking about how wonderful you are and how I don't tell you enough. You are the most amazing grandma in the whole world, and I love you more than ice cream. I hope we can spend more time together and do fun things. Love always, Lucy. The card was sweet, but it smelled of parental coaching. Lucy had never used the word wonderful in her life, and she'd certainly never asked to spend extra time with me. I called Sarah that afternoon. Lucy's card was very touching, I said. Oh, that was completely her idea. She's been feeling really guilty about not being closer to you. Sarah, stop lying to me. I know you made her write that card just like you coached her to call me. Quiet, Mom. I don't know what you're talking about.
Stop it.
Just stop. If you want to fix our relationship, it has to start with honesty, not performances, not tricks, not scripted cards from confused children. We're trying to show you we care. You're trying to show me you can follow directions when money is involved. There's a big difference. I hung up, feeling tired. This wasn't working like I'd hoped. Instead of real change, I was watching them dig deeper into lies. But I'd promised them 30 days, and I always kept my promises. I just wasn't sure how much more fake acting I could watch. 3 weeks into their performance, I learned something that changed everything completely. I was having coffee with my neighbor Betty when she mentioned seeing Sarah at the grocery store. She was telling everyone about your breakdown, Betty said carefully. She said you'd been acting strange since Frank died, making crazy financial choices. My coffee cup shook as I set it down. She said, what? Apparently, you've become impossible to deal with, and they're thinking about having you checked by doctors to see if you're still able to make decisions. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. While they were sending me flowers and love notes, they were also telling people I was losing my mind. Betty, are you absolutely sure about this? Dorothy, I've known you for 20 years. You're the smartest person I know. But Sarah was very convincing. She had several people nodding along, feeling sorry for her. I spent the rest of our coffee visit in shock. When I got home, I immediately called my lawyer. Robert, I need to ask you something important, and I need complete honesty. Has anyone called you asking about my mental health or ability to handle money? There was a long pause. Dorothy, I probably shouldn't say this, but Tom called 2 weeks ago. He said he was worried about some strange financial decisions you've been making. He asked about getting you evaluated by doctors. My hands started shaking. What did you tell him? I told him you were completely sharp and that any evaluation would be pointless. But Dorothy, the fact that he called at all. I know what it means, Robert. After I hung up, I sat staring at those pink tulips they'd sent. Every petal suddenly looked like a lie. Every sweet smell was part of a big trick designed to make me look crazy when I eventually said no to their fake love. They weren't trying to win me back. They were building a case against me. I thought about all the planned phone calls, the sudden interest in my health, the flowers, Lucy's forced card. It wasn't love.
It was
Evidence. Evidence that they were caring, loving family members dealing with a difficult, unstable old woman who'd cut them off for no good reason. The discovery should have crushed me. Instead, it filled me with a cold, angry determination I hadn't felt since I was young enough to fight dirty. They wanted to play games?
fine.
But they'd forgotten that I'd been playing these games much longer than they had, and I was much, much better at it. I spent the weekend planning my next move. By Monday morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. First, I called Robert and scheduled a complete mental health evaluation with the best doctor in the city. Dorothy, you don't need to prove anything, Robert started. Yes, I do. When this is over, I want official papers showing I'm completely sane and capable of handling my own money. Next, I called Sarah. Mom, how are you doing today? The fake cheerfulness was getting ridiculous. Actually, Sarah, I've been thinking about our talk. And I've decided you're absolutely right. Right about what? About fixing the money situation. I've been too harsh, too emotional. I miss our family brunches. I miss being part of your lives. I want to make this right. The relief in her voice was obvious. Mom, that's amazing news. I knew you'd come around eventually. You're such a loving, generous mother.
I want to have dinner this Friday.
All of us, including little Lucy. I want to apologize properly and talk about how we move forward. Of course. Tom will be so happy.
He's been worried sick about you.
I'll bet he has. That afternoon, I made another call to a private detective named Carol Martinez, someone Robert had recommended for family situations. Mrs. Patterson, I need to know everything about my daughter and son-in-law's money situation. Bank accounts, credit cards, debts, what they own, how they spend. I also need to know if they've been talking to any lawyers recently. Something doesn't feel right about their behavior. Carol had experience with family financial investigations. Her report arrived Thursday morning, and it was even worse than I'd imagined. Sarah and Tom were drowning financially. Beyond the obvious bills I'd been paying, they'd racked up enormous credit card debt. Tom's failed restaurant attempts had cost them tens of thousands. They owed money on both cars, had borrowed against the house, and were behind on Lucy's school payments. But the most interesting discovery was a secret bank account I didn't know about. An account where they'd been putting and immediately spending large amounts of money for the past 3 years. My money. They'd been taking the funds I gave them and moving them through a separate account before paying bills. Why would they do that unless they were planning something? The answer came in legal documents Carol had found. Papers showing they'd been working with a lawyer to take control of my money since Frank's funeral. It started right after he died, when I'd been sad and giving large gifts to deal with my grief. They'd been planning this for 6 whole years. The gradual distance, the increasing demands, the casual meanness. It was all designed to create a pattern. The generous but unstable widow who needed protection from her own bad choices. I'd thought I was teaching them about respect and gratitude. They'd been playing a much more dangerous game. Friday dinner was going to be very educational. Friday evening, I sat at Sarah and Tom's dining room table, watching them perform their greatest show of fake love. They'd gone all out for this dinner, using their fancy dishes and even setting out candles. Lucy seemed genuinely excited to see me, which was the only bright spot in this elaborate lie. Mom, you look absolutely beautiful, Sarah gushed, though her smile looked painted on. That sweater is so pretty on you. I was wearing the same blue sweater I'd worn to Frank's funeral 5 years ago. She'd complimented it then too, back when she was still pretending to care about me. Thank you, dear. You look lovely as always. Tom raised his wine glass. I want to make a toast. To family, to forgiveness, and to Mom for being the most generous, loving woman we've ever known.
To Grandma,
Lucy said happily, and her excitement was real enough to make my heart hurt. We made it through soup and main course with their act in full swing. They asked about my health, my hobbies, my plans for the summer. They laughed at my stories, complimented my jewelry, and treated me like the beloved family grandmother they'd never actually thought I was. It was impressive, really. If I hadn't known what I knew, I might have believed it all. After dessert, I stood up. I have something important I want to say to everyone. Sarah and Tom leaned forward hopefully, probably expecting my tearful apology and promise to restore their funding. These past 3 weeks have been so eye-opening. Sarah, your sudden interest in my daily life has been touching. Tom, your dinner invitation was so thoughtful. And Lucy, your card and phone calls have meant everything to me. They were practically glowing with excitement. It's made me realize how much I've been missing, how important it is to be truly involved in each other's lives. Sarah nodded eagerly.
Exactly, Mom.
That's exactly what we've been trying to show you, which is why I've decided to be much more involved in managing all our family business. I met with Robert yesterday to review all the legal documents. Sarah's smile flickered just a little. I also had a complete psychological evaluation done just to make sure I'm thinking clearly. Got a perfect bill of mental health. Tom's face went pale. And I hired a private detective to do a complete financial review. Very, very complete. The silence in the room was deafening. I reached into my purse and pulled out Carol's report, setting it on the table between us. Did you know it's a crime to take control of someone's finances through lies and tricks? Robert was quite alarmed when he saw your legal papers. Sarah stood up quickly, her chair making a loud scraping sound. I don't know what you think you found, but I found 6 years of proof that you've been systematically setting me up to be declared crazy so you could steal my money permanently. The secret bank account, the guardianship paperwork, the people you've been talking to who can say I'm acting strange. Tom's voice was barely a whisper. Mom, it's not what it looks like.
Really?
Because it looks like fraud. It looks like elder abuse. It looks like two people who decided it was easier to steal from me than to work for their own money. Lucy was staring at her parents with confused, frightened eyes. Here's what's going to happen, I continued calmly. You're going to pack up and move out of this house by next month. The house I own, by the way, which means I can kick you out whenever I want. You're going to get real jobs and start living within your actual means. And if you ever try to contact me again, I'll call the police. Robert says we have more than enough evidence for criminal charges. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and I'm changing my will completely. Every penny goes to charity now. Congratulations, Sarah. Your greed just cost you $3.2 million. The same money you thought you could steal by having me declared incompetent. The drive home felt peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. Some lessons cost more than others, but watching my daughter learn that respect isn't optional was worth every single penny. Thanks for listening to Grandma Stories today. Don't forget to subscribe and share your own story in the comments below. Remember, your voice matters too, and sometimes standing up for yourself is the kindest thing you can do. Until next time, this is your grandma reminding you that love without respect isn't love at all. It's just expensive manipulation. Take care of yourselves out there and don't let anyone treat you like a walking wallet, no matter how much they claim to love you. Family should lift you up, not drain you dry.
See you next time.